It's the Last Stand Podcast. And here's your host, Brian Custer.
That's right. The Last Stand, where we bring you the biggest names in the sport. I am Brian Custer, and in the 168-pound division, one of the biggest names is our guest today. He is a two-time WBC super middleweight champion. He's known as El Bandera Roja in the ring. The red flag, he is David Benavidez. David, welcome to The Last Stand.
How you doing, man? And I just want to thank you guys for inviting me out to be on the Last Stand podcast. And I really appreciate you guys reaching out. And, everything is going good, man. I've been working extremely hard. I've been up in Big Bear. I've been up here for 11 weeks already. So I'm just ready to put on a great performance March 13th.
Yeah, so March 13th, you're going to be on Showtime Championship Boxing, headliner, taking on Ronald Ellis. What should we expect? What do you know about Ronald Ellis?
Well, but Ronald Ellis has, he probably has as much experience as I have. He's 30 years old. He's either 29 or 30 years old. I'm not too sure, but he's coming off of a big win against Matt Koroboff. And, as you guys know, they just made this fight a title eliminator. So, if there wasn't already enough motivation going into this fight, fighting me, that he's, if he ends up beating me, he's one step closer to a title. So I feel like Ronald Ellis is coming into this fight very focused, very motivated. But I'm extremely motivated. I'm extremely focused. I worked hard for this, this whole training camp. So I'm looking for it to be a really good fight.
Last time we saw you was last August when you took on Romer Angulo. How different of a fighter will we see when you take on Ronald Ellis?
I feel like you're going to see a completely different fighter. There's still going to be, everything I do is going to be the same, great jab, great body shots, great combinations. But I feel like right now we're at the place I'm at mentally and physically, I'm 100 times better than I was, last August. I came to, this is my first time coming in Big Bear since I fought Porky Medina. And then you guys seen how I looked like when I fought Porky Medina. So now I'm expecting the same type of flash, the same type of combinations. And, I'm getting older as well. I just turned 24 being out here, and I feel like I'm getting that much closer to my man strength. So I feel strong. I feel good, and everything is perfect for this training camp. So I feel like I'm going to get an early stoppage.
You mentioned Big Bear and that you've been training there. You've been training there for weeks. Why Big Bear instead of your own gym there in Washington State?
Well, because of what happened, a lot of my promoters, and myself included, was very upset for me not making the weight. And, I just wanted to get a fresh start, get out here, and be a little bit more, not focused, because I was already focused, but make sure everything is on point. I just had a weigh-in today with the WBC. I was 175. So I'm about 6-7 pounds, closer to the weight, and everything has been good. I feel like when I'm in Big Bear, I get the best out of myself, mentally and physically. I'm the best I've been in my whole career. And like I said, I've been working for this fight, preparing like if it was a world title fight. I didn't cut no corners. I didn't skip any rounds. I didn't skip any miles. I'm taking my opponent very serious, so I just feel like, this is what had to be done. Obviously, it was very unfortunate because, I just had my son. I had to leave him over there in Washington, but to become a champion, these are the sacrifices you have to make.
And what about going forward? Do you see yourself training back at your gym in Washington State, or is this going to be something that's going to be frequently, you're going to do frequently going forward?
I think for my career, this is going to be the route I'm going to take. Like I said, mentally and physically, I feel like I'm at my best out here, and I'm at my peak. And I'm very satisfied with the work we've been doing and how I've been looking in sparring. I've been going 15 rounds each sparring session I'm having. I've been sparring for 10 weeks already. Every session has been 15 rounds. So I feel like, the big fights are going to come. They're going to come sooner than later. So I feel like for me to be out of my best shape and to get the best of myself, I have to train up here. So I'm going to be coming back here.
It seems like, David, everybody in your weight division wants Canelo Alvarez. And why not? I mean, he's, ranked as the top guy in the division. Obviously, it's always a big money maker. How realistic do you think is that fight for you?
To be honest, I'm not really even thinking about Canelo right now. I feel like everybody's chasing Canelo, but I feel like there's more fights to be made. realistically, if that fight were to happen, if everything goes perfect, I win the fights, and then, I end up fighting for the WBC title maybe in a year and a half. But I feel like right now there's a lot of great fighters on 168, especially I heard about Charlo coming up to 168. Me and him been going back and forth. There's Billy Joe Sanders, there's Callum Smith, and there's Caleb Plant. So I feel like for me, myself, I want to earn the Canelo fight. And I feel like the way I earn the Canelo fight is going through all these people. And I mean, I'm sure I can make it happen. And I'm sure I'm 100% positive I could beat all these guys, so the only thing I need is opportunity right now. And at the end of the day, boxing wins because these are the fights all the fans want to see. So why not? Let's get it.
Yeah, you mentioned Caleb Plant. We had Caleb on the show. And obviously, we asked him about fighting you. My question to you is, have you had any conversations at all with Al Heyman, the PBC, about getting a Caleb Plant fight this year?
I've tried to have a conversation over and over again, but at the end of the day, if he doesn't want to fight me, there's nothing I can do. I feel like he's going to sit out as long as he can until he gets the Canelo fight, because, for him, it's just business, and business wise, that fight makes more sense than anything to him, because I feel like I'm more of a threat and he doesn't win as much, if he loses more if he loses against me than if he loses against Canelo. But even after, if he gets the Canelo fight, if he beats him or he loses, I still want to fight Caleb Plant either way. I feel like there's a lot of unsettled business right there we have to settle. But I mean, like I said, I've been trying to get that fight. I've been pushing for it. And I feel like it's time. I feel like the fans want to see that fight. So, I mean, I'm willing to fight on my end, but if the fight's not happening, it's because something's going on that end.
So when we talk with Caleb, and I want to quote him. He said,
of course he feels that way. He's lost his belt twice, once to cocaine, and now he's lost it on the scale, coming in like 3 pounds over or whatever. So of course he wants to feel like that he can just jump the line again and get a world title fight. And, in his eyes, he feels he's going to beat me and then get the Canelo fight. But boxing doesn't work that way. So he's had his opportunities, and, we were working getting closer and closer to being able to make that fight happen for the fans. That's a fight that I wanted for a long time. Even when he won the belt from Ronald Greville, I was standing right at the bottom of the stairs before he could even get to the bottom, saying, "Hey, let's fight. Let's make the fight happen." And he said that I needed a world title first, and that I needed to, get up to his level, and that way we can make a big fight. And since then, he's lost the belt twice. So it seems like he don't feel the same way when it has to do with him. So. That fight will happen. He needs to work his way back, and I'll gladly bust his ass.
What's your response to that?
What do you guys want me to say? He fights Andy Lee, he fights Fighting Boots, and then he fights Caleb Truex. People, they're starting to catch on. They don't want to see these fights, because they're very one-sided. And these guys are more over the hill than they are behind it. You know what I mean? These guys, they have losses. They've been knocked out. So, I think the people are starting to question Caleb Plant. I feel like the best should just fight the best anyways. And I'm not thinking about beating him just to fight Canelo. I want to, specifically beat his ass just to get that out the way. I'm not thinking about anybody after, and I'm not thinking anybody before. I want to get that fight in, because it's me and him is something personal. We have to settle in the ring. And we've been hyping that fight. I mean, the groundwork is done already. We've been hyping that fight up for about 4 years. So I feel like that fight has to be made. It's not skipping no line. How am I skipping the line if I've already been the two-time world champion at 168? If there's any line, I should be in the front of that line. I'm not skipping nobody. I was already a champion already. So instead of him saying I'm skipping the line, then why is he fighting people that's, Anthony Durrell knocked out Caleb Truex. Caleb Truex has a lot of losses. Fighting Boots have been beat. The only person that, wasn't beat was Andy Lee, or Mike Lee, whatever his name is, and he wasn't even ranked anywhere near there. So, so I feel like he has to say stuff. He has to come back with stuff, because, he knows that the pressure is being put on. Everybody wants to see that fight, with or without title. I would love to fight that dude with or without a title. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Your father was quoted not too long ago as saying Caleb Plant has no heart. What does that mean?
No, I don't think he said that. I think he said he has no balls. Yeah. I mean, I think it comes a point in time where a champion, he has to face some type of adversity. And not only because of the fighter, he has to face a fighter where it has to be a 50-50. And I feel like that's where he comes, where my father's saying whatever he's saying, because, he's not really challenging himself. He's not going up, he's not really, solidifying himself as a champion. A true champion goes out there and beats a guy that everybody says that he's not going to beat. So like, just like me, that's why I want, because when I'm done with this, I want my legacy to be that, David Benavidez, he didn't dug no opponent. He fought the best of the best, and he beat the best of the best. That's why I'm trying so hard to make these fights happen, with either Charlo, Caleb Plant, Canelo, all these dudes that are, right here in my weight class. But I feel like I just need to wait for my opportunity. And at the end of the day, time is on my side. So I got more than enough time for anybody. These guys' clocks are running out, but I just turned 24 and I feel like I'm getting stronger. And not only that, I'm getting the experience in the ring. I'm learning more every day. I know how to go from a 12-round fight, a 12-round championship fight. I know how to hurt people early, and I know how to hurt people late. So, it's getting more dangerous for them the longer they wait.
We'll wrap up the Caleb subject with this. I just saw Eddie Hearn said that you and Caleb should fight in May, and then the winner should fight Canelo Alvarez. What do you think about that?
I feel like that's really good. Not only for, Canelo, but it's also good for the sport. I feel like sometimes these fights are given out a little bit too easy. I feel like these fighters have to earn the opportunity, especially if it's against a cash cow like Canelo. So, I'm all up for it, but I feel like, if you tell it to Caleb, fight David and then fight Canelo, or just fight Canelo, he's definitely going to go with Canelo, because he knows that I'm a threat. As much as he says, as much as he talks about me, he knows I'm a threat. From round 1 to round 12, I'm a threat until that fight ends.
You mentioned his name, and so I wanted to bring it up because he got on social media and talked about you as Jamal Charlo. And he basically said, with David Benavidez, let's fight at a catch weight, but he's got to get vaccinated. I want to make sure that I'm fighting people who've been vaccinated. How realistic do you think then a Charlo Benavidez fight could be?
And then just, the type of stuff he says is very silly. Isn't it enough that we go through these protocols already? I'm testing negative all the time. And now he wants to do it at a catch weight. But before, like, I had heard Charlo, let me tell you how it started. I had heard Charlo was going to come up to 168 like last year. So I kept getting interviewed. People kept asking me, and I had never disrespected him at any point. I said, I like Charlo. I like the way he fights. Me, just looking into the fight as a fan, I would think it would be an amazing fight. I feel like me and Charlo had a similar style, and it would be a great fight. They kept asking me. I kept saying the same stuff. And I think I seen an interview with Charlo not too long ago. And he said, he would knock me the F out. He's, oh yeah, I'll snap his neck. I'll go up to 160, I'll snap his neck. He's exactly like Lubin. I'm like, all right, so if you're gonna talk to me like that, you better be ready to back them words. Though I never back down for nobody. So I kept saying it. I didn't say I was gonna go down to 160. I didn't say I wanted to fight him at a catch weight. He said he was gonna come up to my weight class. So I think when people really started putting the pressure on him, this type of stuff said that he wants me to get vaccinated. He wants me, he wants to meet at a catch weight. He wants to see proof of GED, you know what I mean? So it's just, it's just silly, man. Like I said, I welcome all challenges. I love it. This is what I'm here for. I'm in the sport of boxing because I want to do stuff that people say I can't do. And this is a combat sport. At the end of the day, I'm not scared of nobody. But for him to he calls me out and then he backpedals and then he puts all these restrictions or whatever on just the fight. It's kind of odd, but I'm gonna keep calling him out. I'm gonna keep antagonizing him. I'm gonna keep pushing his buttons until he's gonna have to see me in the ring. So hopefully that fight happens. I feel like for me, just talking about how which way my career wants to go, I feel like that has to be one of the fights I have to get.
Yeah, and what as we wrap up the Charlo subject, what does Jamal Charlo need to know if he's coming to 168 and fighting David Benavidez?
That'll be his last fight at 168. I'll send him back down to 160.
Love it. Okay. Another young man we had on, on the show was Mr. Berlanga.
Yeah.
And obviously in your weight division, a young, hungry, young lion. And so I guess he had heard something that you had said about him, knocking out a lot of like tomato cans or, guys that he hadn't fought yet. And so his quote on the show was, when I asked him, I said, what about David Benavidez? Quote.
He should really, take a step back and understand it and look into the box rec and understand the first 16 opponents he fought and the first 16 opponents I fought. I've been fighting guys with winning records that's never been stopped before. He's hating. He sees the buzz that I'm getting.
That's a complete lie, though. I went on his box rec. I seen that. And the guys that he fought have never been knocked out. Go on pull his box rec up right now. You'll see they have been knocked out. So I don't know where he's getting this type of information. I don't know if he's just trying to flex because he's on your show or this and that. But I pulled up his box rec, and those guys have been knocked out. There has been no guys there that has winning records. So first of all, I don't know what he's talking about. Second of all, I'm not his friend. I'm not trying to be his friend. I'm not trying to be nice to him. At the end of the day, we're the same age. I think he's 23. I'm 24. I just turned 24. So he's in my weight class. Of course, if he has, everybody thinks, he's the next lion coming up. Like I said, these are the type of fights I want. He should be happy that I'm mentioning his name because I only mention people who are good. I don't want to fight people that are less than me or that have no name. I see he has potential to be a good fighter. He's a really good fighter. He has a lot of knockouts. And if the fight would ever happen, it would be an amazing fight. Mexican and Puerto Ricans, they'd get together. It would be a huge fight. It would be a huge fight. So these are the type of fights I want. But everybody gets mad. They can say, well, I'm not, at the end of the day, I'm not nobody's friend here. I'm not trying to be their friend. I'm not trying to be in a relationship with these people. I'm trying to knock them out. So if they get mad, so be it. I'm going to try and knock you out anyways.
And I love having guys of your caliber on because you're so honest. So let me ask you this. If it was up to you, not Mr. Lukowicz, who, helps manage you and things of that nature in the PBC, but if it was up to David Benavidez and you say, you know what, B, these are going to be my next 3 fights. What would be your next 3 fights?
The first one would definitely have to be Charlo. The second one, Caleb Plant. And then if the third one, if it would even be possible for I to get blessed with that blessing, it'd be Canelo. But those are the top 3 fights. I've been thinking of that for a while. So those would be the fights I would love to get.
And as you sit here now, as talented as you are, and as exciting as a fighter have you come to terms yet with the fact that you've lost the title now twice outside of the ring?
Yeah, stuff happens, man. Especially what I had the last time it happened, it was just something that was not in my control. With the coronavirus, I should have been a little bit way more prepared, or I should have been more prepared. It's just that, the last week is crucial with the saunas and the hot bathtubs that you need. And I didn't have any access to that the last week of the fight. But hey, I'm not the only one that's been missing weight because of the pandemic. Look, you see, it was me starting off first. And it was very unfortunate. I had to be the first one to get thrown under the bus like that. But, I take full responsibility for that. But if you guys see, David Morrell, he missed weight too. And then I haven't heard nobody say nothing about him. He fought at, it was supposed to be 168. He made 170 point something. And then instead of taking his belt, they changed his fight from a title fight to a 10-round. You know what I mean? There's other people's been a lot of people have been missing weight, and this is not an excuse, but this is just different times we're living in. And especially if you go into a bubble, not knowing nothing, not thinking that you're going to be able to go to, run outside or go get in the sauna. You can't do that. When we got to Connecticut, I had a quarantine for 2 days inside the room. When we'd be able to leave the room, I could only leave for an hour a day. So I was just very unprepared for that. But as making peace with losing the belt twice, right now, the only thing that matters is that I'm still extremely hungry. I'm working as hard as I can. I make these sacrifices. I think you guys could tell because if, I didn't have to leave. I left the week of my birthday. The next week was Christmas. My son was 2 months old. I didn't have to leave that week. 13 weeks is more than enough time to, you had to do 12 weeks would be perfect training camp. But I just said, you know what? I want everything to be perfect. I want everything to be on point. I'm sorry. I told my girlfriend that I'm sorry I have to leave, before my birthday and Christmas and my son's first New Year's, but everything is going to be worth it. I'm doing this for you guys at the end of the day. So, like, I'm just looking at the future. And everything is, I'm working hard to make sure, to keep this weight on check, and everything else has been on check. So now I just look towards the future. I don't look back no more.
I love your story, man, because I think people it's mind-boggling to think that at one point you were a 15-year-old kid that was like well over 250 pounds and just basically playing video games, sitting on the couch. If you could give us the brief version of how David Benavidez not only changed his life, got himself in shape, and then got right into boxing.
Yeah, well, I was born into boxing, basically. I was 3 years old when I first started boxing. And the way that happened is my brother was always training. He was like 7 years old because he's 5 years older than me. So I was 3, he was 7, something like that, or 8. And I would just keep passing by. A little kid, he wants to go in the garage. He wants to train with his brother and his father. And eventually they let me in. So I had been training until I was 12 years old, maybe almost 10 or 9 years. And then my brother, he got an opportunity to get signed by Top Rank, but he had to go to the Wild Card gym to train there. So my parents were divorced. They had been divorced for a long time. So he went that way, I went this way. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to train. The first time in 10 years, I could just be a kid, be at home, play video games, and eat all day. And I just got too comfortable with it, man. And one day I looked at myself in the mirror. I was already like 160 before he left. And I ended up going to like 250, something like that, in like less than a year. And I looked at myself in the mirror one time. I'm like, man, if I keep going, it's not, I don't even recognize myself no more. And I'm going to have a lot of health problems when I get older. And I don't, I feel like I invested 10 years of my life into boxing already just to throw it away in a year. I'm like, I'm just going to call my dad up, see if they're going to let me go over there and train with them. So when I got over there, I was 13 years old. And I started training. My dad, he's like, I don't even know where we're going to start. But I mean, if you want to lose weight, we could try to start losing weight. So I shed off in a year. I shed off like 50 pounds. And then the next year, like another 40 pounds, something like that. But the thing about that was I had the experience in boxing already. Mm. So once we got the weight off, I was like, well, what's the next move? I'm not just going to be training just to train, So the first guy I sparred, the first real world champion I sparred was Latif Coyote. I was 14 years old. Yeah. So I was 200 or 190, like 185, something like that. And I think that's really where everything started. My mentality had to change a little bit different because these guys, when you spar a world champion, they'll spar you until you catch them with something. Then they'll try to kill you. So I had to learn to defend myself like that. Latif Coyote's freaking big, 6'2", scars in his face. But the thing about me is I always had heart. I never backed down from nobody. I never shied away from a fight. If I got hit one shot, I had to come back with 3 more shots. So it started with him. And then I sparred Peter Quillen. And then I got the opportunity to spar Kelly Pavlik. And that was at 15.
Wow. And
then sparring other guys, sparring, some really good amateurs. And then I got the chance to come down here to Big Bear for the first time at 16. And I sparred Golovkin before he made his U.S. debut. So I didn't even know who Golovkin was. Nobody knew who Golovkin was. And the first day we sparred each other, it was in the last round, in the last 30 seconds, we both got each other with the left hook to the body. And I know I caught him. I know he felt my shot because we hit that low left hook and we both stepped back and we just looked at each other in the bell and we just embraced each other. And I feel like that was a really great relationship with me and him. The last time I sparred him, it was when he fought Daniel Jacobs. So it was like 4 years working with him. And I think he really sharpened up my mind because I had to be extremely sharp with him. That guy was, man, if I slacked one day, you never know when Golovkin, he has such power, he could hurt you with any given moment. So you have to be extremely sharp, extremely sharp. So when I figured out how to box him and do stuff with him, everybody else just became cake. It became extremely easy. Not extremely easy, but it became different because Golovkin was a different caliber of fighter. So I feel like he was the pinnacle of everything. And once I learned how to box him, sometimes I'll box him and do stuff with him. everybody else was easy. But I sparred after him. We sparred Gabriel Rosado. We also sparred Gilberto Ramirez for a couple years. I also sparred Dimitri Bivol for the last, I think, like a year and a half before COVID. And then also Alexander, what's his name? The one that fought, got knocked out by Artur Bertabeef.
Oh, Benavidez.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the one that fought him.
Okay.
And I sparred him too. So, I mean, and then also what, is what it makes me very proud too is I wasn't, I really came from the bottom, man. I wasn't anybody in boxing because I didn't even have an amateur career. The only thing I had going for myself is people would hear about me and hear about my name because I had wars in the gyms, wars on top of wars on top of wars. So, I mean, but, that can only get you so much. People, especially promoters, they look at you like, oh yeah, he's a gym warrior. You know what I mean? So I really had to work my way up from the bottom, and I got signed. And, I think everything happens, when I started boxing, or when I really started taking boxing serious before I turned professional, I said, I don't even know if I'm going to become a world champion, but I'm not going to be a boxer and not put my 110% in it. So if I don't become anything in boxing, it's fine with me. All I want to do is make sure I gave it my all, and whatever happens, happens. And to this day, I feel like that's the mentality I have, and everything paid out for itself, man. I'm extremely happy where I'm at in my life today.
That's great, man. What do you think about these YouTubers, man? And all of a sudden it's become the fad that these YouTubers are having these huge fights.
I honestly, man, if they could do it, they could do it. I feel like they found a real life hack in boxing. Those are real life hacks. I mean, not everybody could do it. I mean, I don't mind watching it, to be honest with you. I mean, it's cool. I mean, I guess, but as of a sign of disrespect to boxing, it kind of is, because these guys get paid more than, actual boxers that really put their whole career, their soul into their career. And I don't feel like that's fair at all. I feel like a lot of boxers are underpaid too. But if they could do it, I mean, that's just the way the world works, man. Sometimes you can't do nothing about it, but I mean, it's cool. I mean, I don't really feel no type of way about it.
This segment of the show is brought to you by Man Cave Health. It's a public charity that raises awareness nationwide for prostate cancer. Many of you know I battled prostate cancer, and had it not been for me taking a PSA test, the doctor told me I could have been dead within a year. 30,000 men die every year from prostate cancer simply because they didn't know their number. They didn't get an annual check. And also, do you know 1 out of every 4 Black men are diagnosed with prostate cancer? So along those lines, let me ask you a couple of questions. The first question is, how important is your health to you, David?
My whole health is everything. And it's not only about myself, it's about my family too, because if anything happens to me, I mean, I feel like it's very devastating. Nobody in your family wants to see you go through anything. So yes, the health definitely has to be number one and the most important thing in your life.
And along those lines, obviously you have father, you have an older brother, uncles. Has anyone in your family ever been diagnosed with prostate cancer, or anyone in your family ever had prostate cancer?
No, nobody in my family has ever had it.
And even though you're a professional athlete and you have to get a physical every year because you have to be in great shape, are you one to make sure that, let's say, your father, your uncles, the other men in your life are regularly getting checked?
Definitely. I feel like you definitely have to push them to that point, because I feel like not only just me, but my dad is Mexican, and a lot of Mexicans are hard-headed, man. So I feel like definitely we have to be on top of that, because at the end of the day, my father's my rock, and I never want to see nothing happen to him, or even my uncles, my uncles and my grandparents, man. So that definitely has to be something you have to push, to make sure everybody's in good health, to go get themselves checked up.
The mission for Man Cave Health is to encourage all men to take just 1 hour out of the year to either get a physical and a PSA test. And with donations from people just like you, you can help other men who maybe don't have the resources to pay for a PSA test or a physical exam. All you've got to do is go to the Man Cave Health website at mancavehealth.org and sign up for their free newsletter. It is a great resource. And please make a donation, because this public charity is trying to make sure that all men can get a physical and a PSA test. And all you've got to do to donate to this public charity is text The Last Stand to 44321. Fantastic. Dave, obviously for everyone who watches the show, we allow them to submit questions through social media. Man, we got a number of them, so let's get right to them here. This first one comes from Twitter. This guy asked, he says, David, I started boxing when I was 14. I'm 17 now. I still haven't had my first amateur fight. Do you think I'm behind in the sport if I want a future?
I don't think you're behind in the sport. I think the type of mentality that you have, you definitely have to make it a little bit more stronger, because, it just depends on all the work that you put in. I feel like you're only as good as the work you put in. So if you keep working day and night, obviously, even for me at this time, boxing and training is still hard for me. And I've been boxing almost 22 years. So you just have to keep pushing and, keep having that dream in your head. You see Sergio Martinez, well, he started boxing at 21 years old?
Mm-hmm.
Became one of the best middleweights in history. The Bronze Bomber. He was a college football player. He took on boxing pretty late. Arguably one of the best heavyweights ever in history. So I don't think it's too late. I think, if you really want something bad enough, you go in there, you set your mind, dedicate yourself, and you can make anything happen.
Next one comes from Twitter. It asks, what was a better performance for you and why? The rematch you had with Greville or the fight you had with Medina?
I think for me personally, the better match, in my opinion, was against Greville, because, the stakes were a little bit higher. It was a rematch. People thought he beat me in the first fight. So, I just had to go out there and show people why I was the youngest super middleweight champion in the world. The first fight was good. It was a close fight. I gave it to him that. But, as me being as young as I was, 21 years old, and I just set myself apart from the fighter that everybody thought that was a close fight against. I mean, that was more satisfying to me. I mean, obviously the knockout was satisfying, but, just for me personally, knowing that I could come back and set myself apart that much, I think the second match with Greville was more satisfying.
This next one comes from Twitter from Artman. He asks, what did you think about Canelo when he said a year and a half ago that he didn't want to fight other Mexicans?
Yeah. I mean, that's feel like he just, sometimes, man, I feel like boxers just say any type of stuff just to get the pressure off of them. I really don't know what he meant about that. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm Mexican American and Ecuadorian, so I mean, I'm not 100% full Mexican, so he's gonna have to fight me. But I don't. I think it's just sometimes he just says stuff. I don't really have too much of an opinion on that. I really didn't know what he meant by that himself either. But
this one from Twitter from he says, how realistic is the fight between you and Jamal from actually happening?
Well, I mean, the way I'm gonna start pushing this fight, he's gonna have to take it, or else people are gonna start to see what type of person he is. I feel like Jermell Charlo, he's really just a talker too. I mean, you see that with Daniel Jacobs, you see with Boo Boo Andrade, all these people. I think he just likes to hype himself up. At the end of the day, he doesn't even like to make the fights. But I mean, I think this would be a great fight. It makes sense for me, for him, and for PBC, because I feel like it could potentially be a pay-per-view fight. So, I mean, why not? I mean, hopefully, I will talk to Al Heyman and everybody and Lisa Kubas after the fight and see how likely that fight is to make happen. But hopefully it gets made.
Another one from Twitter asks, David, Charlo, Plant, Berlanga, which one of these guys can you get in the ring, you think, ASAP?
I don't know, man. I'm trying to figure that out myself, man. That's a hard question, but I don't know, bro. Honestly, to be honest with you, I would love to get all of them in the ring the next 3 fights, but you see how this goes. I mean, I've been calling them out and they show no interest in fighting me. So it's a question I really can't answer right now.
This one from Xander from Twitter. Yes, he says, David, why do you continue to lose your belts outside of the ring?
I guess undisciplined. I mean, I can't say nothing. I mean, what do you guys want me to say? Unless you guys want me to say I'm undisciplined, I'm undisciplined. But, now we're trying to make up for everything. And you know, I feel like we're in the right path now. So I can't really talk about the stuff I did back then. Now I could just try to show you guys what I'm made about today and now.
This one from Twitter as well. It says, is it more satisfying or frustrating being the most avoided and best boxer in the world, or is it both? And if so, which one do you lean more towards?
I mean, I feel like it's a little bit more frustrating because at the end of the day, I just want to get these fights made. And I feel like if you're more of a threat than these people, than any other fighter, then it's hard for you to get fights. Like how long it took Golovkin to get that Canelo fight made. It's very frustrating, but satisfying at the end of the day, because if people don't want to get these fights made with you, it's for a reason. But I mean, I'm the youngest dude out here, you know, and everybody, you know, they're not really too eager to get these fights made with me. So, I mean, it's frustrating, but satisfying at the same time.
Last one from Twitter. It says, when will you make the permanent move up to 175?
I don't feel like I'm in a rush to go to 175. If an opportunity presents itself, like against John Pascal or a Badu Jack, where we can make those fights happen, I would definitely go up. But right now, I feel like there's too much. There's a lot of fights I want to get made on 168. I mean, I can move up to 175, no problem. I would have no problem. I was already 176 today, or 175. But I feel like I know I owe it to my people and my fans, and I gotta give them the Caleb plant. I gotta give them the Charlo. I gotta give them the Berlanga one day, or in Canelo. So I feel like I'm gonna be here for the next 3-4 years. And the good thing about it is I'm still young. I'm still 24 years old, so I still got a lot of time ahead of me. So I'm gonna be here for 168 for a couple more years.
All right, David Benavidez, it's time for the last segment of this show. We call it The Last Stand. I'm gonna ask you a series of questions. You give me the first thing that comes to your mind. You ready, big fella?
Let's go.
First thing that comes to your mind when I say the name Caleb Plant.
I don't want to say it, man. I feel like this is a fan-friendly. I don't want to swear, but
no, it's the unfiltered straight talk on The Last Stand.
I'll just say coward. He's a coward.
Who is the best fighter at 168, not named Canelo or David Benavidez?
Billy Joe Sanders.
Who's the biggest puncher at 168?
David Benavidez.
David Benavidez will be a 3-time world champion when?
Once I get that fight with Canelo Alvarez.
Okay. So is that what, a year from now? Is that
I don't know, man. I want to know the question. I want to know the answer to it too. So maybe in a year. Maybe in a year.
Got it. Last but not least, the greatest fighter to come out of Phoenix. Is it Michael Carvajal or David Benavidez?
I'll give it to Michael Carvajal. You know,
how about that?
I'm a fan of boxing, and I respect things that they've accomplished. You know, so compared to Michael Carvajal, I haven't accomplished anything, but I'm on my way. You know, by the time I finish my career, David Benavidez will be the greatest fighter to ever come out of Phoenix. You know what? And we'll wrap it up with this. I mean, everybody, when you mention David Benavidez, they're like, yo, I love that kid. In your opinion, what makes David Benavidez special? I think it's just the way I fight, the way I come forward, the way I never shy away from a fight. And I think people can connect to me a little bit easier to other fighters because, you know, I was a little fat kid. You know, I was a kid that was never supposed to be nothing in boxing. So I feel like they gravitate towards me a little bit. And I mean, you know me, I'm a nice guy. You know,
Absolutely.
I feel like I don't think I've ever heard anybody say that, you know, I'm a prick, you know, I'm a bad guy. So I feel like people at the end of the day, they like to be around people and they love to support a person that's really a people person like me. Hey, you hit it right on the head. I'd say everything you said, 100%. David Benavidez, 2-time WBC super middleweight champ. I look forward to the time when you're champion again. I appreciate you spending time with us. Thank you so much. And also I want to thank you and everybody else who supports me. I really appreciate the love and support. Thank you so much. My man.
That's what we do here on The Last Stand. We bring you some of the biggest names of the sport, like David Benavidez. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you again next week.